Welcome to today's episode of Engineering Success Profile Editions. Today we're talking to Hannah Lawrence, who is a cyber investigator at GE Aviation. Hi Hannah, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
It's great to have you here, it really is. Can we start right at the beginning? What made you choose a career in engineering?
So for me, I really liked maths and physics from like a really young age. I really love logic, and I also really liked breaking things. And so around me, I've literally got all of the pens that I've got around me are like broken and I can't use them because I'm breaking them to see, how they worked and how they fit together.
Yeah.
And so obviously I couldn't keep going around breaking things because you're not allowed to do that. And so I tried to figure out how I could combine my love of breaking things. And I really like asking questions and being curious, and then also combining that with maths and physics. And I was lucky enough to do electronics for GCSE, where I kind of discovered, the hardware and software side of things. Yep. And then I was able to do a few courses with the Small Piece Trust, which really showed me what engineering is, because engineering isn't all about, the people who come around and fix your boiler, for example, no. The people who make bridges. Engineering is everywhere. And so kind of doing all of them combined kind of got me into thinking about maybe doing engineering.
Brilliant, brilliant. So what route did you actually take into industry then?
So I kind of took the obvious route, I suppose, is probably the best way of putting it. So I did A-levels in chemistry, maths and physics, and then I studied electronic engineering at university, where I did a placement year, so a year out where I was in industry. So I was at GE Oil and Gas for a year, and I really enjoyed the team, and I didn't enjoy hardware that much, but I really enjoyed software. And so when I went into my final year, I then wanted to try and figure out, how I could take the skills that I've learned from university, combined with potentially maybe going into a career in software, and then but try everything out. And so I did a graduate scheme called the Edison Engineering Development Program at GE Aviation in Cheltenham. And so that's kind of how I got into engineering, I suppose, in like the real world.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So today you are a cyber investigator, brilliant title. Can you tell us more about that role and how did you actually get into that role?
So I mentioned that I was on the Edison Engineering Development Program graduate scheme. Yeah. And so that entails 3 different rotations, as well as like training and a lot of volunteering. And so when I was in my second, so you get to choose your rotations. And so when I was in my second rotation, I was kind of thinking about my third rotation, because they're 8 months long. And so you have to think about the various rotations that you want to do. Yeah. Because hopefully when you then get your third rotation, you will then have to start to think about what you want to do when you roll off. And so I was volunteering for an event, and there was someone there who I didn't know before. Like when you volunteer at GE, you get to wear these purple t-shirts, and there was someone there wearing a purple t-shirt who was from GE, wasn't just wearing a purple t-shirt, right, who I'd never met before. And so I kind of plucked up the courage to go and speak to the guy, and he was working in cybersecurity as a software developer. And when I found out this, I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. Do you fancy taking on an Edison? How does that sound? And so quite a few long conversations later with his manager and their team, I then got the role of cybersecurity software developer for my final rotation. And the team was so nice, and cybersecurity was just so interesting. It was never, ever anything that I thought that I'd like, because like I remember seeing the ethical hackers when I was at uni, and thinking, oh my god, what they do must sound really scary. I don't know what they did at all, but as it turns out, it was really cool, and I really enjoyed it. And so then when I was looking at roll-off jobs, so finishing the scheme and then going out into the real world, I was asked if I wanted to become a cyber investigator.
Right, and brilliant.
The cybersecurity team, and I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing. So what the role actually entails, so I work in Insider Threat, and basically we try and make sure that GE's intellectual property stays within GE. Probably best way of saying about, you know, like an insider threat case that I can think about is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So beginning of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, there's the Johnny Depp version. So there's a bit where there's the ice cream that never melts, and then there's the bubble gum which blows huge bubbles. And Willy Wonka's invented all of these recipes, and then people are leaking these recipes to the outside. And so then you see the different producers making the ice cream that never melts or the huge bubble gum. And so therefore they've taken his intellectual property and they've leaked it. And so what we try to do is we try to stop, you know, the intellectual property getting out of GE.
So in your role, what would you say is the most challenging part?
So I'm still pretty new to the role. I only started 6 months ago. So, I mean, 6 months flown by, don't get me wrong. So I suppose the most challenging part is still learning everything about cybersecurity and making sure that what I'm doing is right, and making sure that I remember that I can ask questions, that, you know, I am still a relative newbie. I've been here for 2.5 years. You know, I am still new to cybersecurity, and I am still new to the site, I suppose, compared to like other people. And so making sure that I remember to ask questions and learn a lot, so that, you know, hopefully when I'm less of a newbie, you know, I know everything, and I know who to ask the right questions to.
So far, as you say, you've only been there all 6 months. What's been the most rewarding part?
Oh, so learning a lot and kind of getting responsibilities in the team and showing that I have learned things and being able to apply what I've learned, I suppose, is really helpful. So like I try and make it where I don't have to, like, you know, if someone shows me something, they only have to show me it once or maybe 1.5 times. And, you know, I try to not ask the really stupid questions, because, you know, I know that there's no such thing as a stupid question. I live by that motto. But, you know, I try and not be the infuriating, annoying person, because I didn't come from a cyber background. And so I don't really know the stuff naturally. So I just try and pick it up and, you know, hopefully absorb as much knowledge as I can.
So you know, there's hundreds and if not thousands of roles within STEM that exist, which people have probably never heard of. And I say that because, you know, Cyber Investigator, I'd never really heard of that, if I'm honest. Can you tell us how you think we need to educate people, especially younger people, on the huge career potential that is available within STEM? Like you said, you know, you'd never heard of it before you approached somebody, you know, you probably wouldn't have known if you hadn't have had that conversation. How do we get it out there, do you think?
Oh, that's a really difficult question. So I think getting people to talk and promote STEM, so, you know, science, technology, and maths as much as possible, and promote all of the different careers that they do, that there are in STEM, is definitely the way forward. And showing people that STEM is, how do I put this? I don't know. Can I say cool? I suppose cool is, you know, showing that it's really interesting, and that, you know, STEM is everywhere. You know, like an Alexa speaker. I'm trying to not trigger anyone's Alexas if they have it, but, you know, the Alexa speakers, you know, they've got some insane hardware and software technology behind it, which would all be done, you know, by STEM, and by, you know, their jobs wouldn't have existed 10 years ago, definitely. You know, STEM isn't all about building bridges and fixing boilers.
No,
definitely not. And it's not all about theoretical stuff. You know, there's hardware, software, you know, like chemical engineering, you know, making food, making packaging. I don't know, I'm just look around me. Even like just making everything, you know, that's
absolutely,
it's building the world around us, and it's changing the world around us. And so showing that everything is there and everything has been engineered, you know, with, and, you know, engineering, technology and science, you know, and they've helped to make it happen.
So what skills or attributes do you think are needed for a career in engineering?
So I think it's going to sound mad, but like teamwork is a really key thing, because you never work by yourself. I mean, even if you want to work by yourself, you still have to work within a team.
Absolutely, yeah.
And being able to analyze, look at things, and also like, presentation. Sometimes you have to give presentations, or just communication skills in general. I mean, obviously it doesn't have to be stuff like this if you don't want it to be.
No, yeah.
Even just talking to your team, or talking to your manager, or being able to have conversations, or writing down papers, or writing emails, or I don't know, even talking to people just in general. It's just so important. And then, the logical ones of, probably some sciencey stuff, and probably some programming stuff if you want to do software, those types of things kind of come into play as well. It's kind of technical and also really soft skills as well.
Yeah. So you did 3,500 career conversations last year, which is unbelievable. Can you tell us the importance of engaging with younger people?
I like to keep busy. Yeah, so I think it's really important to show that STEM is out there, that there are these awesome careers that you wouldn't have heard of. Because, like Cyber Investigator, like if I told myself 10 years ago that I was going to be a Cyber Investigator, or even 5 years ago, I would not have believed you at all.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you said, you're actually going to end up in a career in cybersecurity, I'd be like, yeah, no, definitely not. And so kind of showing that STEM is everywhere, and that your career path doesn't have to be what you choose when you're 16 or 18, and that it can take all bends and turns, and you kind of never know where you're going to end up with, and showing that, but you don't have to do the traditional, because I called it traditional before, so like you don't have to do that traditional career path to get into STEM if you don't want to. And so I suppose kind of showing all of that is just really important to me. And I also like being loud, and so
yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. So what advice then would you give somebody who's looking into a career in STEM or tech?
So my advice would definitely be just to take every opportunity that you're given, which sounds mad, but it's really good to be able to explore everything. You don't know what you're going to find that you're going to think, oh my God, it's so amazing. Because it could be anything, it's proven by, how I got into cyber. You never know what you're going to find, who you're going to speak to that's going to be able to, give you that golden ticket to be able to get you into a career that you then love. And take every opportunity, try everything. There are so many amazing courses that are out there, like the EDT, Small Piece Trust. There are so many things that you can do to get experience, and then you've got experience, you can then see if you love it or you hate it, or somewhere in between, and then you can kind of start to narrow down what you like or don't like. It kind of helps. And then you never know where you'll end up.
So you know more than anyone how important it is to get younger people involved and attracted into STEM. What's your message to attract people who have never thought about STEM as a career, to actually make them think about STEM as a viable career choice?
So firstly, STEM is not just for boys. I know this sounds really, I don't know how else to put this, but you don't necessarily have to fit in to the normal stereotype of an engineer in order to become an engineer. You can be anyone and get into STEM, which is really important. You don't have to get amazing grades to get into most careers, but definitely not. STEM is made up of, well, everything really, and then STEM makes everything, like the cars we drive, the planes we ride on, everything is made of STEM. And so I suppose you don't have to fit into a certain mold to get into STEM. You can be anything, do anything, and you might end up in a STEM career, or you might discover that you don't want to go into STEM. But either way, then it's really important.
Hannah, that's it. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.